Saints, shalom and blessings to all of you. This is the day, or continues to be the day that Yahweh has made, and as saints we are encouraged to rejoice and to be glad in it. This is the perfect time to be alive. It is an amazing time for the saints of Yahweh. We have got the privilege to be able to understand or know his mind, as he says, because who knows the mind of a man except the Spirit? And he says that we've been given the Spirit. Because we possess the Spirit of Yahweh, then we know the mind of Yahweh. And it's a delightful thing to be able to know the mind of your God. I bid you all shalom. Welcome. We have that confidence that it is always well. Thank you, Javon, for the information about the quality of the broadcast. For the saints, it is always well. It doesn't matter what you face. It doesn't matter what surrounds you. It doesn't matter what you see on the television or on your phone in the news. It is always well for the saints. And I give Yahweh praise for all of you today. This is a tremendous moment for the church. Oh, glory, hallelujah. I love what I see. I love what I'm seeing. I love that which is unfolding before us, because this is the time when we can look up to say, even now, come, Lord Yeshua. We can look forward eagerly to the arrival of our Messiah. And that is a joyful thing. Yahweh is gracious and Yahweh is merciful. To those of you who know the others who don't get notifications, I don't think Regina gets hers anymore, whatever happens, notify them that we're here and that we have quite a bit to chew on today. Shalom and blessings to you. Blessings, blessings. It is, a saint never has a bad day. For if every day is made by Yahweh, then how can yours be bad? We only have good days. Hallelujah. Oh, glory, hallelujah. If you are Muslim, as they say you are, I'm warning you now that this broadcast would get you uncomfortable, because the truth is indefensible. And I will show you that there are many Muslims who are equivalent to those, equal to those, and just like those in the Jesus Church. That's why y'all could say Jesus together. That's why the Muslim and the Christians in the Jesus Church can say Jesus all the time. You are no different from each other, essentially. And I'll prove it to you. You can't handle the truth. Let's see how many of y'all be able to stand up to this truth. So if you're not any Muslim, you can share this, because today is the day where we're going to speak to the truth. That's what we're going to do here. As always, we speak the truth. We discuss the truth. The saints are exposed to the truth. The saints of Yahweh are never to be ignorant or deceived. If you're Hindu, you want to be here today, because in New Jersey, and I'll speak to that, the largest Hindu temple outside of Asia, the largest Hindu, not Christian church, the largest Hindu temple outside of the Asian continent was built in a little town in New Jersey, 183 acres. And in that temple bears carvings of Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, and others. Oh, to the Guyanese Hindus who believe that Hindus are only Indian people, what is a black man doing in your temple? Can you tell me? Why is the face or the carving of a black man, as you all describe us, doing in your temple? Can you tell us that, please? All the racist dogs, can you come out and tell me, as a Hindu, since when Cassidy said that you don't think that the accidents are occurring when he circled the Jandi flag, you all got mad and went to ERC and said that he's attacking East Indian people because you're that stupid. So I'm asking you now, if Hinduism is exclusively East Indian as you all put it in Guyana, then what is Dr. Martin Luther King doing in your temple? And let's not forget, we'll talk about that. Let's not forget about deity and deifying people. You will never, ever advertise the face of one you dishonor in your temples. We both know that. We all know that. You wouldn't put the face of a lesser being in your temple. We all know that. The state of the world is intriguing, but the condition of the mind of every saint to whom I speak is important to me as an apostle of the Lord Yeshua. You are not to be carried away and tossed around everywhere with news and doctrines and everything else and follow the hype of the world. The world does not dictate to what you know. My brother Pastor Dexter, shalom and good to see you. The world system is the worst system to inform you of anything. And so there has been, and I'm happy that you all are here, because what I'm about to share with some of you is going to shock, as they say, I don't want to say the hell out of you, because people get offensive when you say hell. I don't care. Hell is a word. But it's going to shock some of you beyond what you can imagine. And that's why apostles are so important to the church, and that is why this year we are being told about understanding or getting a revelation of the priesthood, the spiritual authority in the church. I'm warning you again, you ought to pay very careful attention to the spiritual authority in the church today. It is critical. On Saturday, I think it was Saturday, okay? During the Feast of Sukkot, focus saints, we're going to start heavy today. Israel, as you know it, that plot of land, ruled by Ashkenazis, you know, the world, I would like to think, saw what unfolded. People were horrified. They were horrified to know that this could happen to Israel, where Hamas fighters descended into that nation. They came on gliders, paragliders, they came by air, they came by land, and they came by sea. And they slaughtered about 1,500, 1,600 people. Most of them classified as Jews. What is most important to note is that this was during the feast or the time of Sukkot. Saints of Yahweh, hear me and hear me carefully. Sukkot is the feast that in this month of Tishrei, it marked or signifies Yahweh's covering of the Hebrew people for the 40 years that they were in the wilderness. Let me say that to you again. Hamas attacked them during the Feast of Sukkot. Sukkot marked the time when Yahweh covered his people in the wilderness for the 40-year period. What are the chances that during the time when the true Hebrew people are reflecting on Yahweh's covering of them for 40 years in the wilderness? Remember when he said to them, for example, when they were running or fleeing Egypt, he put the pillar of cloud and there was a pillar of fire. And he stood between them. There was an angel that protected the Egyptians couldn't see the Hebrew people to attack them. There was protection. They walked and walked. The sandals didn't wear out. The scorpions and stuff didn't kill them, and serpents that were there didn't kill them. Their clothes didn't wear out. They were protected and preserved. So Sukkot marks this time of Yahweh's covering. What this? What this? Revelation chapter 2. Revelation chapter 2 from verse 8. Are you all there? Now, Facebook does the worst to me, especially with these kind of broadcasts. So if you don't mind, just tap some reaction on the screen so I can know that you're there. I don't want likes and love, but I just want to know that you're present. Just understand I'm asking you to do, okay? So your activity means I know that you're there. I know some of y'all are stuck in your hands, can't move based on what you're hearing. Now look at this. Look at this. Revelation chapter 2, verse number 8. From there. To the angel of the messianic community in Smyrna. Write. Here is the message from the first and the last, who died and came alive again. I know, verse 9, how you are suffering and how poor you are, though in fact you are rich. Look at this. And I know the insults of those, listen to this, I know the insults of those who call themselves Jews, but are not. On the contrary, they are a synagogue of the devil, of the adversary, of Hasatan. It's in your Bible. It's actually written in your Bible. That there's somebody who's calling themselves Jews, and that's a very bad translation. And they are actually not Hebrew people. They are essentially of the congregation or the synagogue of the devil. But they say that they're Jews. And they are insulting those from Smyrna. Now, if you don't know, Revelation is essentially targeted towards Hebrew people. It speaks of the day when the Hebrews will be saved. The time of the Gentile will end, and then the Hebrew people will be saved by the Messiah's return. Why would Yahweh cause this to be revealed to the church? That there are people who say that they're Hebrews, but they're not. Can you tell me why he would do that? And put it in your Bible, as you call it? And your pastors are bombarding you. Let's go here now. How many of you are being bombarded about, and you're seeing it all across the world in news, in many nations, I should say, that Christians are gathering to pray for Israel. Are you all seeing that? Are you seeing people are coming out? And look at how they dress. The Protestant, the Orthodox churches and all them, they're coming out. And of course, the Pentecostals and others are saying, pray for Israel. Do you know who you're praying for? And many of you are requesting that prayers be made for Israel, the state that's a part of the UN. Don't recognize that you are requesting that prayers be made for people who are saying that they are Jews, but they're not. And Yahweh even told me to tell you this further, that some of you who are making requests to pray for Israel don't realize you're making requests to pray for yourself, because you are Israel. But the church cultures taught you to look to the Ashkenazis from the Caucasus Mountains and say, you are Israel. So we have to pray for you because your nation is called Israel. And you are called Jews. But the scripture says they're those who say that they are Jews, but they're not. So let's go, let's begin to eat some food here now. On Sukkot, the feast that marked Yahweh's covering of Israel way back in the wilderness was the day when there would have been the greatest, the second, apart from the Holocaust, the second most or the second deadliest attack on those people. How could it be that the month when you're celebrating protection is when you suffer the greatest degree of assassination? Yahweh is exposing these people before your eyes. You are seeing it now, where those who claim to be Jews, and by the way, Israel, as you know it, that nation, is said to have a dome, what's called a metal dome. It protects by rocket fire and radar, highly computerized system, Israel, the populated areas. That they are still to figure out, how could these people orchestrate such a strategic degree of attack on them by air, by land, and by water, and they couldn't figure it out. I'll tell you why. Because Yahweh is showing the saints who have eyes to see that those who say they're his, during the month of Sukkot, there's no protection for them. If ever there was a time he should have protected them, was now, because now is where historically there's a celebration to say he has protected us. The Iron Dome, that's it, Brother Aubrey. That he has protected us. And when they're supposed to be boasting of protection, they have been annihilated and embarrassed. And the church that serves Jesus has rushed as always to say, you have to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. What does that statement even mean? Do you know what it means? Who inhabits Jerusalem for you to pray for it? Do you know? The people that you are so eager to pray for, especially those of you who they call black, are despised by the Ashkenazi, by the fake Jews. They said that you are not enough of a person to be called human being when you're black. They said you're just a little touch above a monkey. Do you understand me? If it is proven by y'all Jesus people who said, oh, Jesus is black. That's some of y'all not popping out trying to say that because you hate the fact that this white, girly looking, effeminate boy, Cesar Borgia's nephew, and effeminate is your Jesus. So you now want to say Jesus is black. If Jesus is black, how is it that Netanyahu is white? And all these people you see in New York are white. Name one black face in Netanyahu's cabinet. If your Jesus is black, I'm not talking about Yeshua here now. If, according to your argument, your Jesus is black, how none like him can be found leading Israel today? Because if he's black, then the 12 tribes have to be black too. Because he's Hebrew. Of the tribe of Yehudah. So why is it that we can't find one black boy in Egypt, in Israel now? Or man or woman who helps to rule? Because you have been taught for years and centuries that God's people are white. And black faces are Gentiles who will have to be grafted into Israel. You don't have birthright. You just have rights by adoption. And that is not even accepted across the board. And in your eyes, the Israelis that you see now, as they call themselves, are the true Hebrew people. Hold on. And Muslims don't get happy yet because I'm coming for you in a minute. How could they be the true Hebrew people when they were introduced to a land by an arrangement? They were not born out of the loins of Abraham. They were given a land by arrangement. Yahweh has exposed and is exposing those people for who they really are. They are not his people by covenant. Yahweh has no covenant with Ashkenazi. Yahweh has no covenant with those on the Caucasus Mountain. Yahweh has no covenant whatsoever with the people you see today and call Israel. And when they found, and I want to repeat some history for you all here, when they discovered that they were actually people like me, looking like us, who were truly Hebrew people, by DNA, you know what they did? They tried their best to prevent us from claiming our inheritance. And say you could come back. That was a fight too. They say some of you could come home, but you can't rule. You would not rule here. You don't have as much rights as you think you have. And they are the people who, when Yahweh has begun to release on them swords of justice, you saying, let's pray for Israel, because you don't even know who Israel is. Yahweh has no covenant with those who are of the synagogue of Hasatan. Some of y'all scared to type that. I'll tell you it again. Yahweh has no covenant with those who are of the synagogue of Hasatan. You are of your father, the devil. And the church of Hasatan, what's this, has to have a Hebrew image, because the anti-Messiah is a parallel Messiah. He wants to be like Yeshua. He wants to appear to be like Yeshua. He will be empowered to work miracles like Yeshua, but he has a different name, and he has a different ideology, and he has a different concept that will be sold to people. And that is what y'all are rushing to pray for. Listen to me, saints. The church of Hasatan must have a Hebrew story too. Because the Hasatan is the father of lies, and the anti-Messiah will deceive the whole world except the church. So the only way that you can have a Hebrew Messiah is if you have a Hebrew people. And the only way that you can have a Hebrew anti-Messiah is if you have a Hebrew people who claim, hey, we Jews. And that's what the scripture is telling y'all. They say, we are Jews. But Yeshua said, you are not. Who do you believe? Who do you believe are Assemblies of God? Who do you believe Pentecostal and Baptist and all that? Who do you believe? You all claim to believe what the Messiah says. No, you don't. You believe Jesus, who is subjected to culture, and he is the father of deception. You all don't believe the truth. The fake, the phonies, the liars were celebrating what they said would have been Sukkot. But what's the next thing? At Sukkot, oh, y'all got to come to this. At Sukkot, they were having a party. Not prayer, not reading of scripture. They were gathered and having a ball. With Germans, with Italians, with Americans. They were going wild during a feast that is supposed to be holy. Can you imagine That when remember Christmas, right? When you're supposed to be reflecting on the goodness of the Hebrew God who would have rescued people, you partying. And Hamas descended from the air, the warriors, and killed 260 of them. And in your normal human emotional response, you said, pray. Now, how do you pray for what you are supposed to rebuke? How do you, show me one scripture where you are supposed to pray for what you should rebuke and hate? These people, through some of their rabbis' confession, have said that they know that they're not the true or the original Hebrew people. Now, what's it supposed to mean? You have an original and you have a copy? Church, the essence of what I'm saying to you today is that you would not be caught up in the deception and running around the place selling emotional lies. Do you know who owns CNN? Jews. Do you know who owns CBS with the I? Jews. Do you know who owns most of the media networks in the US, the major media houses in the USA, a network? Jews. Do you know what Zuckerberg is and who he's sympathetic to? Why I think Kyrie Irving got into trouble when he just shared a link to a movie? Do you know that 1/3 of the New York economy is controlled by Jews? I didn't say Hebrew people. Now, if there are over 120 or 30 or 60 nations making up the USA, the greatest melting pot is in New York. New York has the most diverse culture. And of all these 100+ nations that make up the population of New York City, and New York, the state, and the city, hello, 1/3 of them, 33% of them control your economy. There are many of you who work for Jews and don't even know it. You don't even know who you work for. You don't even know who owns these mega companies that you're part of. And so, these people can appeal to the world from their side of the fence because they have control over media. Why is this so important? Let me help you all. The Antichrist is going to be and has to be a Jewish person in reference to his presentation, because the church would not be deceived by a Muslim. The church wouldn't be deceived by a Hindu. The church, the fake church, would not be deceived by Baha'is. You wouldn't be deceived by Confucianism. Yet the deception for the fake church, for the lost church, for the Jesus church is from a Hebrew person or a Jewish person. Because Yeshua said, they'll say, look, the Messiah is over there. Why would you say the Messiah is over there? Because he looks like the Messiah. He has the story of a Messiah. He presents to you miracles like the Messiah. And then you say, oh my God, this has to be Jesus who has come. That's the deception. That's your deception. And there are those who will hate me for telling you this. And they are in the Jesus church, by the way. They hate me for telling them that they are going to be deceived, and they are being deceived. You are controlled. So they control the media. They control social media as well. Therefore, when the anti-Messiah is to be revealed, how do you think the world will be informed about his actions? Can you tell me, please? How do you think the world would be informed of the anti-Messiah's, the antichrist action? It has to be based on the media's presentation to you. That's it, Shema. Blinken is a Jew. Glory, hallelujah. Guyana has got a Muslim president. He's paid to be president. The first ever Muslim to sit in the seat of president is Irfan Ali. The first Muslim to ever live in State House is Irfan Ali. Y'all come. This is so strategic. This is so strategic that for the first time you are seeing in our country, Guyana, Muslims in Guyana, seeking to rise and come publicly to call for protests against Israel after a terrorist attack. Who can tell me that this is not a religious situation now? This is not just political situation. This is not a political situation. Donald Ramatar was the first. No, Ramatar is Hindu. Somebody help me with this. Isn't Donald Ramatar Hindu? Ramatar is a Hindu Israel God. And I tell you why, because I remember vividly when election of 2020 was to be had, the Islamic organization came forward and said, vote for Irfan Ali. Watch this, not PPP. They said, vote for Irfan Ali because he is your brother. They never said about Ramatar. And that's why Irfan could rebuke Ramatar publicly. Muslims don't rebuke each other publicly, Israel. They don't do it. Muslims are not allowed to rebuke each other publicly, if at all. They taught that if your brother is doing wrong, you must encourage your brother to do right. Don't rebuke him. Ramatar has come out as the former president to speak against Israel. And some of you don't understand why he may have to do that. Who controls the money in Guyana now? You see, this country is now being governed by, in reference to you want money, you have to say the right thing and be in the right space. That's what Guyana is about right now. You must say the right thing and be in the right space. That's why your Jesus pastors are so quiet. Because they have to say the right thing and be in the right space. Meaning, at some point, say nothing. You just be quiet and you all get a little handout here and there. Don't talk. Because if you only do what this person is doing here, what I am doing here, you would be cut off from all handouts. So they have to be quiet. TV operator, turn down. Monitor operator, turn down for me, please. I'm about to holler in a minute. Now, the fake Jews, and by the way, when they were classified as Jews, the Germans were not praising them when they said that. They were not being seen as people who are Yahweh's seed or Yahweh's covenant people. There was never, in the world wars that were fought, in the Holocaust, there was never a slaughter of Hebrew people. Come, y'all come. In the Holocaust, there was never the slaughter of Hebrew people. And I'll tell you without any reservation why that is the case. Because the Hebrew people never receive reparation. Never. The speed with which they paid Jews money and give Jews a whole nation and say, go live here, and we're going to pump so much money into making you strong again, they would never do that to Hebrew people. The Jews receive reparation for the Holocaust. Hebrews, who are called Africans as well, receive nothing up until this day for the greatest Holocaust that ever occurred. When King Leopold of Belgium slaughtered black people, up until now it's not a problem for them. He has a statue in his honor. The fake, or I should say those who are of the synagogue of Satan, have to be called Jews. And the scripture says that they call themselves Jews. That's important to note. They called themselves something. They took a name on themselves. It wasn't given to them. They weren't born this way. It says they called themselves Jews. It's in your Bible. Let me talk to the Muslims, please. You, black Muslims in this country, you're all I'm talking to. You black Muslims all across the Caribbean and the world, you're all I'm speaking to. How do you account for defending Hamas because they're Muslim, but you cannot defend the Hebrew people or forget Hebrew. You can't defend African people who look like me, who were sold into slavery by the same people's foreparents, who you all call Palestinian brothers and sisters. You all don't want to pretend that you don't know that the slaves in the slave trade were supplied to the white man by Muslims? You want to pretend that you don't know that? So let me paint the picture for you. And you can search it. That's why I said, anyone you're Muslims, you're free to go to research and see what you support. Do you know, or look at the picture, the Hebrew or the African is captured. And the African is captured by the same people from Palestine. The Arabs, they call the Arabs. They're captured by Arabs. Can you imagine Arabs capturing your foreparents, walking them through the desert and the dry parts and so on of Africa, or invade the tribes and capture them, walk them through for days, sun and heat, rain, and handing them over to a white man? Come please, sit in front of the class. Because you need to hear this. Now, the white man and the Arab is fighting. And you getting involved. So you're going to protest in Georgetown. Y'all get it yet? Let me speak to you African descendants who are Muslims. You are going to protest in Georgetown. against Israel, white people, because they're killing Palestinians? Why don't you protest against what has happened to you historically? Why are you not protesting against what has happened to you by history, where the same people, forefathers, the Arabs, took your forefathers, your fathers, and handed them over to the white man? Why you don't protest that? That's why I said to you that you and the Jesus Church, you all could say Jesus easily because you know different from each other. The Jesus Church say, let's pray for Israel. And the Muslims say, let us fight for Palestine. And the African is saying, what is wrong with you? Let me tell you this again. The Muslims in Guyana are saying, let's fight, let's protest and stand with Palestine, with Hamas. And the Christian is saying, we have to pray for Israel. And the African descendants saying, what's wrong with both of you? African descendants have no part in this. None. This does not involve you. As Yahweh is so faithful, the same Caucasians whose forefathers bought us, and the same Arabs whose forefathers sold us, are now killing each other. And I must get involved? And I should encourage the church to pray for them? Pray for whom? Pray for what? You seem to forget that there was a time when Yahweh told Jehoshaphat, don't fight. Jehoshaphat told the people, don't fight. Stand still and see, because this battle is not yours. You're like singing in church. This is not your fight. This is not your fight. He said, don't do that. You must just look and see. The battle is Yahweh's. And the enemy began to consume each other. Glory, hallelujah. The enemy began to consume one another. And you talk about praying for Israel. And another say, let's protest against Israel. Are you crazy? There is no African. No African has any right to involve yourself emotionally in this foolishness. This is not about you. They refused. The Arabs never paid us for selling us. Ali Rondas were told, Ali can't talk for me because Ali doesn't have the consciousness to speak for me. Ali went and responded because he doesn't want to appear to be racist. So he went and sat before the interview he had, and he told the people that they want reparation for Africans and stuff. Ali, you can't talk for me because the first thing is you need to talk to your people in Arabia to give me my money. And give me my due opportunities, not just money. Because reparation just give me money. Give me back my opportunity. Give me back the right to thrive in an environment just like y'all can. I don't just want any payout. Give each African descendant $1,000 in skull reparation. Give us the equal opportunity to thrive. We did not just lose money. When Arabs captured people of my ancestry, when you captured them, we didn't lose money. We lost mansions. We lost farms. We lost businesses. This is not just money. We lost empires. Irfan Ali, you need to tell the Arabs who started this whole foolishness in reference to selling slaves, selling African descendants, that they too owe us. So whenever your sheikh friend and sheikh, whoever came, you need to tell them, listen to me. This is not just about the UK giving us anything. Y'all owe African descendants because you sold them. And if you want to fight, let me take you deeper then, because you're going deep this afternoon for us to get this thing straight. Do you know, you all remember in Libya, or I think it would have been, when the Cameroonians, I think it were Cameroonians, they were trying to escape to head to Europe, and they were caught by Arabs. It was on the news in the modern era that black boys were tied up and being sold to Arabs. Are your memories shallow? Not one Muslim condemned them from Guyana. Do you hear me? You saw on the silver screen, as you call it, or on your AMOLED display, or whatever display your phone has, you saw this be right in your eyes. I think it's 2017, somewhere around there, where Cameroonians and Nigerians were being sold, and in Libya as well, sold off by Arabs. Do you know why they did it? Because it's normal. That's their culture. And Irfan Ali cannot condemn that. And nobody in Guyana said, we're going to march because you shouldn't be selling black people. But y'all are in Guyana now, wanting to protest what's happening all the way in Israel. Get out of my face. You are hypocrites. You never organize a protest when African boys and girls, male and females, were being sold, and you saw it on your screen. This was no history book you had to read. This happened in our modern age, 6 to 7 years ago. None of you organized a protest for even 5 minutes to say this is wrong. You should not, Arabs, you should not be selling people. But today, you're splashing all across the place that you're organizing a protest against Israel. You are hypocrites. And that's why your one Guyana garbage doesn't work for me. And that is why you're talking about we are one people doesn't work for me, because you're liars. They're selling us in Dubai. Exactly. And you have got some sheikh come to visit. Amir come to visit. And Ali's welcoming people with open arms. I'm going to expose her because today as a preacher, my responsibility is to talk to you about your hypocrisy. Ali welcomed them here and never told them to their faces, you owe African descendants reparation too. But he could tell the white man in the UK that. But he can't tell this Arab brother that y'all are wrong. Historically, history has proven you to be wrong. History is proven to be wrong. You have sold Africans into slavery. He doesn't want to speak to that. He didn't even say, man, in recent history, we saw Nigerians. We saw Cameroonians. We saw them being sold to your people. The deception is great, but the saints are never going to be deceived. I made to announce to every saint, what is that? You must, I just got confirmation, I know Ramatar is Hindu, Ramatar is not Muslim. You as a saint, I'm instructing you apostolically. You are to have nothing to do with any protest against Israel or Palestine. It is not your place. You have nothing to do with this because it doesn't involve you. And it does not involve your people. My responsibility is to speak to the hypocrisy of this administration and Muslims in Ghana. And you all need to fix this. Some of you, I can't blame you because your imam didn't tell you better. But you go to your imam and tell him to the faces, Imam, explain to me, please. Look, I have evidence of Arabs selling black people like me. Imam, talk to this, please. And here, if Imam will tell you, well, you know, if they pray 5 times a day, Allah forgive them and that's it. Because that's exactly what happened. You give to the poor, you pray 5 times a day, your sins are forgiven. That's their belief. Now, to those of you in the USA, and those of you in New Jersey specifically, I speak. We have some of you, the image may be inverted, but I'll try to show you nonetheless. This is in New Jersey. You see this? Those of you living in New Jersey, this has come to your territory. The largest Hindu temple outside of Asia. Who would believe that you would live to see the day that this is in New Jersey? This was being built while Christians were having church, while y'all are praying, while Jesus, where MOC people are, remember you're supposed to be the head and not the tail? You remember that? You're supposed to have control over your territory. Come. And this has come in your face. 15,000 volunteers. In New Jersey? And why Hinduism in New Jersey? Why have the largest religious facility being Hindu? Right in your face. India has become an economic power, a technological power. And the US has recognized that it needs and must try its best to get India on its side. Google is controlled by an Indian, or owned by one, the CEO. He's a multi-billionaire. What does he control? Information access. Y'all sit here, please. Your phones generally function by the use of Google. It's the largest search engine, meaning all kinds of information is put into this facility, this system, and it controls what you see. Now, Hinduism has a footing in your community in the USA. This, they said, will be likened unto Mecca, where people make pilgrimage to this place. You'll come right here, and people of all genders and castes and creeds and everything else will gather right here. What is this whole thing about mass gatherings of people? What's this? reducing your focus on truth, righteousness, and justice. The churches in New Jersey have become irrelevant. Once this facility is opened, once this facility is functional, this becomes the major attraction in New Jersey. Y'all get mad and gnash your teeth all you want. Can you imagine that the church is not an attraction? A theme park is not an attraction. Atlantic City is not an attraction. A Hindu temple is an attraction. So little children will be taken there to see, to marvel at the beauty, while they would not understand idolatry indeed. Martin Luther King was a Baptist preacher. We're the Baptist. Martin Luther King was a Baptist preacher. And Martin Luther King's image is carved in the walls of a Hindu temple. Martin Luther King, a Baptist preacher, has his image in a Hindu temple where people will go to worship. That doesn't tell y'all anything. Doesn't it tell you something? A Baptist preacher, the most famous black preacher ever, his image is carved into the walls of a Hindu temple. Abraham Lincoln, who owned black people, who was a slave master himself, his image is in a Hindu temple. Because when you show up to this one here, it would not be about fighting. It would not even be about your Christian religion. It would be to show you, watch this, that even your black preacher has a part to do with this system of belief. You may want to fight and say, no, hell no, hell yes, because the Hindus also believe in Jesus. They don't believe in Yeshua. The Muslims believe in Jesus as a prophet. The Hindus believe in Jesus as one of the gods, or an expression of. The Christians believe in Jesus. The three most dominant religions in the world believe in Jesus. Jesus preachers, your Jesus can fit into a Hindu temple and it's not a problem. Martin Luther King, your Jesus preacher, can fit in a Hindu temple and it's not a problem. Imam, you talk about Jesus. Farrakhan talks about Jesus because Jesus can fit in the Muslim circle and it's not a problem. That's what Pastor Mel. Martin Luther King's daughter had to give permission to his son. They had to give permission, likewise the Lincolns, to have their relatives' image in this temple. And to them it's not a problem. To the Christians it's not a problem to have your black preacher, the most celebrated black preacher ever, in a Hindu temple. When you don't seem to know that Hinduism is governed by caste. C-A-S-T-E. And this temple was built. Let me get another image for y'all. This, what did I hit? Oh, this right here. This right here. You see this 136 acres. There's no church that will be compared to this in all of New Jersey and the USA. None. Let me inform you, please. The Dalits built this. The Dalit. This wasn't built by the middle class, the upper class, or the lower class caste in India. It was built by those who are not even considered to be fit to go into caste. They're the untouchables. They're nobodies. They're nothing. And in the USA, where they speak so much to the rights of human beings and humanity being treated with dignity and all the rest of it, this is not a problem. Where no bodies can be brought to build this. The largest facility for worship in the USA was built by the untouchables, by the nobodies from India. In 2000, I think it's, but when they started built. On October 8th, it'll be open. They started in 2011. Since 2011, 12 years. Martin Luther King, who fought for civil rights, the Hindus of this place said, put his face in here, while the Dalits did it. The craftsmen and the artisans who work in this, they were all nobodies. And the man who fought, knowing that black people were being treated just like the Dalits, he had no right. The Hindu said, put him in there. The big boy said, put him. Instead of his family fighting for the rights of the Dalits, his family said, no, his image should be carved on the wall because it's an honor to have Martin Luther King's face in the temple. It's not an honor to speak against underpaying people. It's not because the black man in the USA, Martin Luther King fought because he was being underpaid. He had no opportunity. Remember two mules and an acre? He was fighting for so many rights for the black man to have in the USA. And now his family is saying after he died that they are not fighting for the Dalits who worked in the temple. They're going to accept his image being carved on the wall. The entire face of the modern world is changing right before the church. This is not happening in secret anymore. The face and the nature of the modern world is changing before your eyes. The church must, therefore, the church of Yeshua HaMashiach must take a stronger stance in shining before men so that they can see your good work and glorify your Father who's in heaven. The church of Yeshua HaMashiach cannot be quiet and cannot be hidden in this age of evil. Can you imagine that maybe tomorrow you're going to see in your city, in your country, in Guyana, people walking the streets of your country to protest what's happening in Israel and Gaza. But they're not protesting ExxonMobil raping your country and Jaguar endorsing that garbage. They're not going to stand and protest that an oil giant, as they call, from the USA has infiltrated our country. They're not protesting that Guyana for royalty is earning 2%. Out of 100%, we get 2% royalty. They're not protesting that everything Exxon said that is spent, we have to pay for it before they give us back any money. And Jagdeo knows that we have no means of verifying what Exxon does. Guyanese are not protesting. Muslims didn't say we're going to the street. Are we going to protest what is happening to Guyana? But they're going to protest what's happening in Gaza. Our children have nothing to eat on many days in an oil-rich country. Our children have no water in some classrooms to drink in an oil-rich country that's facing a heat wave. And Yahweh told you what will happen to y'all. You see how many cars and now I saw utility poles burnt down. People don't have power and all that in Guyana. He'll deal with y'all because you're wicked. And you telling me that y'all could go and protest about Palestine when this is happening in your own country? They spent $61 million on the Jaguar roundabout and Black Panther roundabout in Georgetown. That could have bought at least 500 AC units at $120 each. $20,000 a piece. That's if they want the big units. The rubberized track at Lenora. That's not Lenora proper. That rubberized track was disintegrating. And they said they won't have national championship because the track is going bad. I submit to you that in this heat wave where our children are suffering, they have to rush to the hospital so often. Those who have asthma. They went and spent, that's after this $61 million now, $71 million on to resurface the track and have everything upgraded. Because your child's comfort in school is not more important than a rubber on a track, than tartan, than rubber on an athletic track. And Muslims aren't going to protest that. The Muslims didn't say let's protest the fact that this government would rather, this administration would rather spend money on rubberized track than our children eating and our children being comfortable in the school environment. You're not protesting the atrocity. I'm not talking about no murder of anybody here, and I'm talking about to how your children are being treated in your own country. But you could protest. So we could have had over 1,000 or 2,000 air-conditioned units for our children to be comfortable in our classrooms. Ali doesn't want that. Ashley Singh doesn't want that. Jagdeo would never get that. He has no son, no child. I told her that he has no care in the world. No care. He doesn't feel what a father feels. And the preachers and the Christians are not protesting against the fact that Guyanese are being treated less than in our country. But Muslims are going out to protest about Hamas and what Israel is doing in Gaza. The church must find its way in this age to recognize the signs of the time, to recognize the workings of this age. And let me close with this text. Revelation chapter 2. Let's close with this text. Verse 9 and verse 10. Yeshua said, I know how you're suffering and how poor you are. That's Smyrna he's talking to. though in fact you're rich. And I know the insults of those who call themselves Jews, but are not. Further, he said, they are, on the contrary, they are of the synagogue of the devil. Thank you, Israel. I know that you're a man of responsibility, so Israel has corrected it. He knows that Ramatar is Hindu. So Ali is the first Muslim president of this country. Look at this next text, verse 10. Listen to this. Do not be afraid. Remember, they're from the synagogue of Hasatan now. Look at this. Do not be afraid of what you're about to suffer. Look, the adversary is going to have some of you thrown into prison in order to put you to the test. Glory, hallelujah. The Jews who say they're Jews, those who say they're Jews that are not, they are of the synagogue of the devil, and the devil will have you in prison. The devil doesn't arrest anybody. Somebody has to arrest the saint. Somebody has to persecute the saints. And look at who is doing it. Remember, there's a synagogue of the devil. And this synagogue is made up of those who say that they are Jews but are not. And then the devil is going to have you arrested. By who's working? Okay. There are those who claim, as simple as social media is, when you type something that isn't acceptable in their eyes, what do? Remember, it's called Facebook jail. Remember that? They even have it on WhatsApp now, where they can jail you if you do not type that which is acceptable to them. In the USA, if you had better not offend a Jew, we are seeing it where even in the electronic space, the Jews, those who say they are Jews and are not, have means of monitoring and chastising or persecuting you and anybody who stands against them. If a Quincy, if a basketball player talks against them, they would strike you from the team unless you bow and say, I'm sorry. Jamie Foxx had said that man, he heard that they killed somebody named Jesus. The Jews killed somebody named Jesus. Jamie had to issue an apology for what even the Christian Bible said. I close by reminding the saints that you are not to be caught in the web of thinking that you just pray for that which you were taught about. Reference to when you were in error. Don't ever do that. You don't pray about world issues. You are informed about world issues. Because once you see certain issues arising in the world, it informs your actions as a saint. Not about prayer. It's about focus. Look up, for your redemption is near. Look up, for your redemption is near. It is about focus. Pay attention. Pay careful attention. Yahweh in his faithfulness has positioned the saint in 2023, according to Pope Gregory's calendar, of 5,784, according to Yahweh's calendar for his people, to see the unraveling of those who say that they're of Yahweh, but they're not his people. African descendants, we are receiving recompense. We are sitting back and watch those who bought us and those who sold us go at each other. And they're going to kill one another. We don't have to kill a soul. Isn't it? We don't have to pull one trigger. We don't have to drop a bomb. We don't have to do anything. We who are calling for reparation for all these years, these centuries, they didn't want to give us anything. We can sit back and watch those who sold us and those who bought us kill each other. And when the dust settles, we'll still be here. When the dust settles, we shall still be here. I am not concerned about Israel and Gaza, not in the least. Thank you, Daddy. There should be serious introspection. Know what you stand for and know who you stand with. I knew it was just going to be a matter of time. When I sat and I saw that the Arabs were selling these black boys and girls, the Africans, I could sit and look at my phone. And I spoke about this on my page. And I see them selling people, reminding you so vividly about what happened in the transatlantic slave trade in that time. And I knew the day was going to come and you would be dealt with. The African boy and the African girl who couldn't fight for themselves and you all sold them into Dubai and sold them to whatever family, they don't have to fight anymore. You're going to pay for what you do to people. And I encourage every Muslim in Guyana to know what you're standing for and who you're standing with. You see my example. I don't defend anybody because you're Christian. Right is always right. Wrong is always wrong. I don't care who's doing it. Irfan Ali is a bona fide hypocrite. And his actions can land Guyana land us into, y'all, not me, into serious trouble. You don't support foolishness. If you know, and you could check it and come back and talk to me, the records have shown and recent history has shown, video evidence, that Arabs, Muslims were selling African people. Boys and girls and whole families were sold. And Ali never demanded reparation for that. He never condemned it. Be careful about what you support. Yeshua said, woe unto you who call evil good and good evil. Be very mindful. The wickedness of a king can cause the destruction of subjects, but Yahweh's people are always preserved. All who want to support foolishness, Yahweh's people are always preserved. But I remind you that the wickedness of a king can cause the destruction of his subjects. Ask King Shaul. Ask David who did wrong. You ask any king. The wickedness of a king can cause the destruction of his subjects. But Yahweh's people are always protected. And we always preserved. I bid you shalom. And I pray that you will do well. Do well, saints. Blessings. See you soon. As always, I say thanks to those of you who give to my family. Those who give to me, I am grateful. I am so thankful that your kindness is seen even in your actions. We are grateful. And I will remain thankful to you all. With that I say, shalom and do well. Bye-bye.